Welcome. As we do every year, I will run through the budget. You have the cover sheet and then the line items. I'll go through and talk about the overarching picture from the first page, and then I'll go through and hit any of the significant changes on the line item budget. Please, if you have a question, let us know and we will go from there. If you look at the very first page, Orrington School Budget Revenues, the very top section, which comes to $8,179,059, is the overview for the budget. That all comes from the sections down below, so I will hit those. The gross budget comparison, you will see that there's a 0% increase to the town on the gross budget. Local appropriation, last year was $3,867,071 and is the same this year. So a couple of things here, that's still $247,000 less than it was in 2017-18, and that's 7 straight years of not asking for an increase from the town. I would expect that you'll see inflation start to push into that in the next year or two, but right now it'll be 7 years in a row we haven't asked for any additional money. If you go down below that, state subsidy, you'll see that we dropped from 4,115 to 4,025,000. Predominantly, that drop of the 89,000 is because our bigger classes that went to high school are starting to leave, so you have less students, which means you receive less subsidy for that. State valuation down below, which is important because the two greatest factors in what you receive for state subsidy is your number of students, and then your valuation jumped 16,716,000 or 4.2%. However, the state average went up almost 10%. So the reason that you see no impact to subsidy up top is because we were 6% behind essentially the southern part of the state. Before I move from this page, are there any specific questions? All right, seeing none. Moving on to line item budgets, I will essentially hit anything that's about $10,000 shift or more. If you look at health services, line 12, it's an increase of 11,289. That's essentially because we've hired a different person there who is at a different step on the scale and takes different benefits. If you go down to the next page, you're going to see line 63, an increase in benefits of 6,250. That's because we've also hired a different person who takes a different benefits package, family versus a single plan. Line 73, you'll see an increase of 10,925. That's our transportation through the ESC or the Hancock Transportation Collaborative. That's still 105,000 less than if we were with First Student. And again, all of these you're going to see throughout our wages and benefits. It's worked very well for us and we've made some significant improvements. Line 95, increase of 36.4. That's per the agreement with our pre-K2 teachers. Line 98, a drop of 30,000. That is just a difference in what they take for benefits, which is the same as line 99, the drop in 15,000 there as well. Turning the page. Line 1112, you're going to see an increase of 20,000 and below it for 113,18,350. That's per the agreement based on the salary scale and then what people take, and then salary tail for the ed techs as well. However, if you drop down to line 15, you'll see a difference in the benefits that they've taken. Line 145, an increase of 10.5, which is contracted training services. That's based on what people are getting for training as we enter our new teaching staff. Line 162, everybody's favorite, tuition to public schools. It's a drop of 153,484. That is mostly because if you will remember, we had our large classes going into high school. They're now exiting high school. So as those large classes leave of 60, 65, you've got 40-ish coming in based on the grade. So you're going to see those numbers change depending on which year it lines up with. Turning the page, line 188, you'll see an increase of $40,000. For special ed tuition, that's our high school cost for having students in high school who also receive special ed services. Turning the page, line 223 and 224, you're going to see a drop in speech pathology. That again is based on the person we hired, where they are on the scale, but also what they take for benefits, which will bring you to the bottom line of 275, the 8,179,59. Now I hit that fairly quickly. I am happy to answer any questions you have on that, but those are your significant changes without anything being added or taken away. Questions? Go ahead, Keith.
What's the roughly last year's student population here at CD and this year's population?
It's about 355.
355.
Yep. And it was about that last year. I'd have to pull up, but it was 353 or 354. It's fairly stable.
I remember back a few years ago, it was
423. Yep.
So definitely changed.
Yes. And that was predominantly driven by the bigger high school classes that went on the high school. And so we went from 3 teachers per grade to 2.
Roughly, what do we save owning our own buses?
$105,000 a year compared to the last bid from First Student.
Great. Where does the other savings come from with no increase in budget? Just general. Less students?
So your high school tuition dropped 153, so that was a piece of it. And then it's an adjustment to different lines as we've gone through here to try to reflect where we can save anything.
So the adjustment in high school because of less students?
Yes. Yeah, so you still have an increase every year for the tuition rate,
Right.
but because you're dropping students, that drops overall your cost.
How long is that going to continue?
Maybe one more year before I think inflation will outpace it. And then by the second year, we're going to be flat, numbers going in, numbers going out.
Yeah.
Roughly.
I think next year is seniors though. That's
Yeah.
our last big.
Yes.
I'd just like to state the fact that you've done a tremendous job over the years
Oh.
to keep the budget with inflation at what it is last year, this year, next year.
Thank you.
You've done a hell of a job.
It's the board. Thank you.
Well, I know.
But thank you. Appreciate it.
Facts are facts.
Yeah. Yeah, but they're not often accurate, so thank you.
The other way is beyond expectations and Dan's claim, then probably the comments might be different.
And usually will be, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, it's the truth.
Other questions?
Just a general comment, kind of, following up from the previous one, but a lot of what's kept the budget stable, somewhat under your control. But what is in your control, what you haven't done, you haven't taken advantage of the situation where, the townspeople would support some 1% or 2% increase, maybe they would, maybe probably more. But you didn't do that. They do that some places.
Yep.
And, that's the part I appreciate. You haven't taken advantage of our good fortune, I'll call it.
Right.
And layer some things on there.
Just piggybacking on that, I think the budget is obviously really important, but I think also the quality of our teachers and the quality of education that our students get is important. So I think the superintendent and the administration should also be complimented for that. I think our kids here get a really good education and have a lot of opportunities because of their education here, and I think that's important too.
I agree with that. I'd also say the town's been very supportive of the school budgets, even when they were, out of control and increasing. The town's always been supportive.
Right.
there's been some fakes over the years, but not a lot. So, no, I agree with what you're saying.
Thank you. Any other questions?
How much does the school district get into the DEI and boys competing against girls and all this?
Right. So we follow the guidelines whenever that comes up, and it's a highly randomized question. I'm happy to sit and talk it through with you, but for the most part, we take every student through the door and make sure that they know they're welcome here and that we support them.
Any major maintenance or outlays anticipated next year, year after? Nothing?
Not at this point. Nope, the board approved a 5-year plan about 7 years ago, and we've hit all of those points. So I think barring anything that we're not aware of, we're headed in a good direction.
You do have a noisy fan.
Yes,
That fan.
it's because the belt is going and it's already on order to be replaced. Yeah. Other questions? Yes, sir.
Do you recall how much we will be saving, getting a new generator because the other one
Yep.
had to quit during the storm?
Yep,
And the school rented one.
Yes.
for the interim
Yep.
until the new one
Yep.
was available. And I understand that through somebody's good planning, that was covered by insurance.
yes.
And I wonder what kind of money the town and
Yep.
the school saved.
So renting is $3,000 a month. We've had it, when it goes into place, we will have had it for at least 6 months. And then the generator itself is about 54. So that'll put us at about 72,000 roughly. Give or take a little, but, and that's allowed us to maintain through all the windstorms, school here, not just for our students, but anybody that needs a warming station or honestly a cell phone charging station. So, because the world has changed. Other questions? All right, Mr. Backman, the floor is yours. Thank you all.
Well, thank you for coming. It's always tough following the school because they have done such a wonderful job. And need to applaud them for 7 or 8 straight years of being flat. I speak for all 4 of us up here and these 2 that aren't here that I challenge you to do it 2 more years.
Challenge accepted.
Good thing you said 2 years.
Yeah. I'll go over the highlights of, the town side of things. On the revenue side, the big thing for the tax collector revenue is $414,000 worth of estimated taxes. That equates currently right now to about a 61 cent to 70 cent mill change. That number will change once all the valuations have been entered. But if the valuations were today, the mill rate would grow by 65 cents. Down in the Department 200, revenue sharing has gone down by 125,000. That's the state money that the sales tax and hotel, and I blame that on the election being over, so there's no more sharing of that revenue as equally as it was. Account 2315, equity interest earned, that's a new line item this year. That's 85,000. That's interest earned on our investment in the Eagle Point Energy Center. And so they're paying a loan back, and that 85 represents the first year of interest payments on that loan. On the next page, Department 400 miscellaneous income. There's an increase of $97,000. That's an additional contracted services that the town's going to provide to Eagle Point Energy Center. So our partnership with them has added roughly $180,000 worth of revenue to this town. And so our increase overall is $554,000 worth of new revenues. Questions on the town revenue side? Hearing none, we'll go to the expense side. The selectmen went up $700, very minor. Manager's office, one of the big thing was the salary line. That's gone up because we've added some half-time equivalents to assist doing the additional administrative and accounting work over at Eagle Point. So the $90,000 of miscellaneous revenue is offset by some of that increase in the salaries. You'll also see account number 4017, legal services. We did not budget anything this year. I'm recommending that we set up a reserve like we do for the fire truck, like we do for the equipment, that we put money away for legal services. And as we use it or not use it, it stays with that account. So we will get to that later. 120 insurance and benefits really took a hit this year on the insurance. Workers' comp went up through the roof. Our modification rating, increased drastically, and that is the increase for that. Social Security, the town share, the town received an overpayment years and years ago and has not been taxing for that expense because it was using that reserve, and that reserve is getting depleted at the end of this year. So we're starting to fund 100% of Social Security through taxes. 130 Town Hall, very little change. Next page. Department 220 assessing and Department 230 code enforcement. We've lost some positions here, so the decrease in that salary line is due to positions not getting filled next year. One's due to a retirement, and one is due to not being able to fill it completely, but also getting transferred to the manager's department. Department 250 economic development, again, there's a line item for legal services. I've not funded that, but we'll fund it as we get into the later departments. Department 310, Public Works, nothing earth-shattering here. An increase of $19,800 over a $543,000 budget. Everything about Public Works is more expensive every year, and we seem to be doing good controlling the equipment, the materials, and all of the supplies that they use. Moving on. Department 320 Public Works equipment. There is more equipment out there, and so the maintenance and the upkeep of that has increased, as well as the fuel cost to operate that. Department 420 solid waste. There is some increases contractually. We're into a new year. Additional charges because we are hauling to the landfill now. Hopefully that will end by the end of this year, and we'll start dumping our trash on the tipping floor again by the close of this year. Recreation, some miscellaneous increases. Next page. Local area contributions, the flags markers went up. It was the only increase. Department 510, the fire and rescue. Once again, we're on our fourth year of really studying and trying to figure out what it really costs to operate that department and that new building. I think we've aimed small and missed small for this year going in, and I think we have nailed down a lot of, some of our big guesstimates and big mistakes we made in prior years. Moving on, Department 520, the police department. There's a very large increase in this department because the town is going to hire a fourth to patrol our town. The sheriff contract signed a new schedule, and it needed an additional 4 deputies to be on our rotation to keep the deputies that we had. Their old schedule, we only had 3, and those deputies only could have 5 weekends off a year. And so the new contract allows for 4 days on and 4 days off, which gives them 26 weekends off. And if we did not hire a 4th to keep the deputies we had, we would be stuck with 3 people that didn't know how to sign a good contract. We're stuck with 5 weekends off a year. So we've hired an additional patrol duty to keep what we have. It will also extend the coverage. We'll have more coverage and less on-call, and a lot of overlap on most of the days. There'll be 2 to 3 hours during the shift change that there'll actually be 2 people on. Library was pretty much flat funded, again, studying it hard in the operations. Department 670, the capital projects. Here is where I'm putting $35,000 into a legal services reserve. I'm also creating a new reserve for conservation of the town's land, to have a land stewardship. This includes our public parks, also includes our cemeteries, to really put money away and have a good steward of these public lands. And so the total for the municipal budget, $4,662,569, which is an increase of $393,260. Open the floor to questions. I don't know why the air conditioner's not on.
Can't afford it. I seem to recall that PERC used to be like 11% of our tax base, and then there was some adjustments.
Yeah.
5.5%.
Yeah,
Now it's 0% of our tax base. So,
it was never over 10 when I was here.
okay.
It was always in the 6 or 7%.
Back in my era, 11%. So
Yeah.
with that loss, and we're not seeing, an outrageous increase in our expenditures, that's something that is quite amazing, and something that we can be thankful for, that we haven't gotten hammered with increases in our bill rate.
So have a projected bill rate?
If the valuation stayed to what it was last year, it'd be 11.71, 11.65. But there's new valuation that came on. There was new houses were built, additions. So there's about 4 million of new valuation that has been added to the tax roll. There's also the sales ratio they go through and make a town-wide adjustment on, land values or building values. So you will see your value of your house creep up, but that will also creep the mill rate down, But if everything if the valuation stays flat as it is today, it'd be a 65-cent increase in the mill.
So anticipated new projects like the solar farm, greenhouse, won't come into effect until over a year.
Should be, the solar farm's supposed to be online at the end of, in December of this year. And so that'll increase, that'll be a gross increase to the town of $225,000.
The battery, is that gonna be
That's about 2 years out.
2 years out? Any idea on the completion of the greenhouse?
Probably not till, it won't be fully completed by April of next year. April 1st is when the valuation gets set. No. There will be some value added, but it won't be 100%.
We live in a very fortunate town. No kidding. We really do, compared to what goes on statewide. We have an excellent overall operation.
Well, thank you. Mr. Bruce?
Yes, I just wanted to ask the fire chief, is your budget the way it's structured right now, are you comfortable, you have enough there to attract the people you need, staff, fire?
I think that we're certainly not behind, but certainly looking at what's happening around us. I mean, there are major increases coming to payroll around. And in the coming year, we're gonna have to stay up if we want to keep.
That's what I worry about, kind of, just competing with a lot of the same personnel in some regards.
In almost all of them, I mean, at this point, any of the people we have working on it could go somewhere else in the job set. It's so much higher. Especially that one right there, very many places, you could be on. I don't think it is, but I'm just saying, people with that, there's a value to that education.
Oh, no question.
That is, and if you don't keep up with our salaries, and that would be a problem.
Is your new truck in transit?
New truck is, California still in final inspection last week. So we should see that first week in 15th Union Crossing. Yes.
Have you been down to look at it yet?
Yeah, final inspection last
What'd you think?
week.
Look all right?
It's big,
Yeah.
big.
It'll fit in the door, though.
We have to, we have tires.
I think they measured 3 times before they finalized. Look forward to seeing it.
At what point in time will the power supplied from the East Orange Business Park be able to pay for the electricity costs for all public works buildings? Is that
Just
years down the road,
December.
December? So-
Yeah.
Well, that's coming from the solar farm.
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that will give Jim a chance to keep that school budget.
Challenge accepted. That's what I heard
We got it, the table.
on video.
We got my slide up, but we'll be fine.
That'll cover those 10 new high school students. that moved in.
Could you just give us rundown on what's going on with the PERC plant and the town's position with that?
How much time do you have or want, or?
Just that, I'm not sure what I'm asking you, but it's exciting to me to think that we're gonna be involved with that. But I'm curious to know what the percentages are, as far as the town's investment goes compared to whoever.
The total investment for the town was 2.5 million. And that included over $1 million worth of old taxes. And so that old taxes, if you recall, last November-ish, we had a town meeting that we weren't going to foreclose on the PERC plant to allow that auction to go through without the threat of that foreclosure. And so I rolled all those old taxes, some additional equipment that we had, we rolled that into that mortgage note. And so that mortgage note is getting amortized over 10 years, but there's a balloon payment after 5. And so there's a $28,000 payment that's being made monthly on that. July 1st, there'll be an additional $30,000 to keep current with the taxes going forward. And so there'll be a monthly payment of all their taxes going forward. The town's cash outlay right now is we're done. We will not invest any more money into it. And so our percentage of ownership is 25% of that facility. The partnership we have is with a company that is in power generations. And I sat through some very long and strenuous meetings with engineers and designers, and they're redesigning and re-equipping that entire facility from the tipping floor when the trash shows up to when the ash leaves the facility. They're moving the scale house, they're moving a slaker unit. And so the budget that I've seen is 15 million is going to get invested in by the end of this year. And then another 45 million is going to get invested next year. And there's an additional optional 10 million that will get invested next year or year 3, if we can call that. So there's a total of 65 million that's getting poured into that plant by this partnership that has 75%. The plant can be and will be profitable once it opens up the doors. It's turning a positive cash flow right now, just with what the material they're handling. It could handle a lot more material and could be a lot more profitable if it was operating. And that's their plan, is to get it operational the first quarter of 25. And so that's where we stand now. Does that help?
Yeah, pretty little bit helps. That's good. Thanks.
You're not with the BDN, are you?
I get here.
Out of order.
He didn't serve you with a FOIA.
Anything else?
Any time frame on the new gasification process?
Never,
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 never gonna happen?
never gonna happen.
That guy's a big blowout, huh?
He's gone.
I know that.
Yes, and yes.
The people we partnered with have better use of $50 million. And
That's what it costs to do that?
yes. And so they haven't voted it down completely, but it needs to be presented and sold to them in a much more, logical and beneficial way.
That's another 50 million over the 60 million we're gonna spend already.
Well, they're spending 60 million and they're gonna put it into the plant the way they want to see the plant. And they'll get that plant, they'll get both those boilers up and running,
Right.
and they'll be turning a profit on that plant, you know, without the gasification.
Right.
So,
So long-term gasification is just not feasible? or-
I haven't seen a proposal yet to turn it into, you know, a profitable operation. You know, 50 million is a lot of money to be putting in, you know.
Is anybody gonna go to look at one of these plants that supposedly is one?
Not in the next year. The permit alone will take at least 2 years. With the storms that happen on the coasts and FEMA out there throwing money to fix these, the DEP is losing ground every single day to stay on top of what they have going on, you know? And so any new type of gasification permit that wants to happen over there is at least 2 years away today, you know? And you give the DEP 6 months to get behind the FEMA projects, it'll be 3 years down the road. So we talking 1, 3, and 5 year plans, and gasification is not in either one of those.
Not in the plan.
I think the plan right now is to get Epic or PERC up and operating with its proven technology, just the way it's been for 35 years,
Right.
with the exception of probably a 10 to 12% increase in efficiency at the boilers and at the generator.
Do we have more towns that are coming in when it is operational in January? Enough to keep it up and running?
There's enough towns right now to keep it up and running as it is. The extra efficiency, the more steam, they're gonna pull that off the line and they're gonna add another revenue stream. You know, whether it's drying sludge or PFAS remediation or, you know, heat to the park, there's several different things they're talking about. You know, anywhere from 4 million for a sludge dryer to 10 or 12 million to running heat throughout the park.
Any plans to bring in garbage, so to speak, up from other areas, other than the towns that are anticipating?
Oh, we're signing contracts with other towns, other other facilities that are gonna be hauling in to our facility within 3 to 6 months. You know, the 44 towns that we have now is not the end of it, you know. We're signing, you know, a new contract with another town, probably in 2 weeks. I go down to the end of the month and hopefully sign a contract that's another 50,000 tons a year. And so there's tremendous opportunity in front of us, and we're chatting with all of them.
Right.
And it not only has to do with taking trash in, but also has to do with where we bring the ash. You know, the PERC operation, it was a one-stop shop for ash, but it was one-stop shop for ash and glass and grit and everything that weighed, you know. And so they were paying a lot of money for getting rid of glass and water, and, you know, and that's not going to happen. The ash plant's getting renovated to handle, you know, the ash, and it'll be a dry ash. It could be mixed in with a dried sludge. There's tremendous opportunity over there.
So is the town going out and soliciting contracts differently than the way PERC operated?
Absolutely.
So you're in the contract business all of a sudden.
I'm not. There's 3 people over there that are at, yeah.
What's the timeline on the Swedish waste compactor?
It's left Sweden, so it's en route now. I don't know what international shipping times. We can deliver it on site, but because we don't have that permitted, we can't install it. And so we need to get our solid waste permit that got submitted last week, 2 weeks ago. So there's a 30-day public comment on that process, and then it's a 10 or 15-day, depending on what the public comment is. We should have that permit, middle of June. And so then, once we have that original permit, now we can make an amendment to put the baler in the process and get the baler permit. I'm in the paperwork business right now.
What are you gonna do with the bill?
There's still trash sitting on the floor right now, yeah. And then it covers 85% of the tipping floor. And so there's nothing we can do in that building, with that pile of trash there. And so most of it, we can bail up and we can save it to when the furnace comes on. Some of it, when we get down to the bottom, we don't think there'll be any value to that. So that might end up at Juniper Ridge. But once we get it baled and consolidated and get the floor cleaned up, then we can replace the lights. We can, change out, put a new sprinkler system in, put a new water jet cannon, fix the roof. I mean, the roof is, 30%, transparent, visible through.
The roof is literally toast.
Yeah. So, but you can't do anything with a mountain of trash sitting on the floor. And so the baler will consolidate that and stack it neatly in one corner. And then,
Like a fire brick,
pardon?
there'll be a fire brick and you use it to push them in. Instead of having to loose it.
Yeah. But we'll be able to break them apart and hopefully have new trash that will have a higher BTU value. So, the 1 ton of old baled might be mixed in with 3 tons of, the good fresh stuff. So.
That baler will also be used during routine maintenance when the system is up and running. If you have to take a boiler offline to do maintenance or anything like that. Now, if that happens, the trash goes to Juniper Ridge. With the baler, we can stockpile it and get the system up and running again, and then put the trash into the system and burn it. So you're gonna save a considerable amount of money from not having to go into bypass with that machine, with that baler, which is another plus.
And so bypass is a fancy word for Juniper Ridge landfilling. And so, once the baler does come, theoretically in, pen and paper, that there shouldn't be any more trash going to Juniper Ridge, because we'll be able to handle it all.
You were asking, one of you was asking about the ash content, and for years, everything that came out of the boilers went to Juniper Ridge because their screening and separating system had broken, and as rule of thumb down there has been for years, they didn't fix it. If it would run, they didn't fix it. But the new ash processing is going to be pulling all of the recyclable metals, either at the front end or at the back or both, I forget.
At the back.
The back end, so it's the ash process. And there's a considerable amount of money to be reclaimed with recyclable metals that come out of the.
But just drying it alone, instead of sending wet ash to the landfill where you pay by the ton, to dry it, and, you're not paying for 4 tons of water going to the landfill.
That whole ash process is gonna change.
Good?
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you much.
expenditure numbers.